And for more on the Israel-Hezbollah conflict, let's bring in Global Ties Associate Professor Saeed Khan. Saeed, thanks so much for being with us. Since we last spoke on Friday, strikes from both sides have intensified and deepened as well. Hezbollah targeting an Israeli base in the northern area of Haifa. Israel's IDF also shutting down Al Jazeera's broadcasting capacity in Ramallah, as we said. Netanyahu says he wants to deliver a message to the Lebanese militant group. Hezbollah's leader, in return, has declared a, quote, open-ended battle. Many are anxious and fear we're on the brink of an all-out war. What's your opinion? How do you de-escalate from this?
Well, the de-escalation comes at a very interesting time with the opening of the United Nations General Assembly. One would think that there could be a moment of greater international intervention. Now, we've heard, for example, from the British Foreign Minister David Lammy calling for an immediate ceasefire. We've seen that the European Union has, in fact, also called for the immediate reactivation of UN Security Resolution 1701, calling for a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah going all the way back to 2006. There has been, relatively speaking, a tepid statement from the Biden administration warning Israel to prevent an all-out war against Hezbollah. But unless there's some kind of action taken by the international community, either in the form of more intensified diplomatic engagement or a demand through various international organizations and capitals, particularly London, Washington, and elsewhere, to try to exert pressure on Israel and also on Hezbollah, I'm afraid that the idea of this getting worse may actually be the future, at least in the short term.
Now, how likely is it, do you think, that the UN actually has that sway?
Well, again, that is another very interesting question, because even if it had the will to try to promulgate some kind of diplomatic action, it always seems to then fall onto the United Nations Security Council, where Israel enjoys pretty much a guaranteed veto of any resolution which seems to then curb Israel when it comes to its military actions. Prime Minister Netanyahu recognizes this, along with the fact that it is an election year in the United States, both of which tend to then play very well when it comes to Israel's military tactics, because it can always then claim that it is doing so not only in its own interest, but that of the West.
How much do you think the pager detonations impacted Hezbollah's command and control? The funeral for one of the top commanders happened earlier Sunday. And how has the Lebanese government responded since the Beirut attack? It's the largest provocation in nearly 2 decades. But are they hamstrung by Hezbollah?
I don't think that they're only hamstrung by Hezbollah. We also have to take a look at Lebanon as a country when it comes to its size, when it comes to its economy, and when it comes to its capability to even launch any kind of reprisal. When it comes to the violation of its own sovereignty and its own territory by actions from the Israeli Defense Forces that we see happening time and time again, and now with greater frequency, it probably presumes that Lebanon is not in a very strong position to go ahead and launch any kind of a reprisal. But when it comes to the pager situation and whether it has in fact crippled Hezbollah's command, Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel has said that it has dealt a blow that is something that could not be imagined. But of course, we have to see this as perhaps more hyperbole and rhetoric. I would suspect that Hezbollah probably has several levels deep when it comes to its military or paramilitary command, as is evidenced by the continuation of Hezbollah launching rockets into Israel. So how much it has been damaged, we're really not sure. But one thing is for certain, the idea that Israel can somehow or the other destroy or annihilate Hezbollah completely, as it says it is trying to do with Hamas, is more folly than it is reality.
And Saeed, how are Israelis reacting to the conflict on 2 fronts now? Because the government seems to once again be in disarray, many calling for Netanyahu to step down. He is in turn calling for the ouster of the defense minister, Yoav Gallant.
Well, of course, Netanyahu is seeking to stanch any opposition and, in fact, stanch any kind of coverage of what Israel is, in fact, doing. As you mentioned before, closing down Al Jazeera under some auspices of promulgating terrorism. Al Jazeera simply covering what is occurring. Even last night, in front of one of Netanyahu's residences, the former chief of staff of the IDF was arrested while he was in silent protest in a rather brutal fashion by the Israeli security forces. Some of this is not being covered sufficiently by Israel when it comes to the Israeli domestic market, and certainly something that a lot of people outside Israel are not privy to. But the fact that every night there are hundreds of thousands of Israeli citizens taking to the streets of Tel Aviv, protesting Netanyahu, protesting his government, protesting his actions in Gaza, in the West Bank, and now in Lebanon, is a sign that this is not something by which Netanyahu himself can realize. It is by a unanimous consent or even a mandate of the Israeli people. But yet again, I think cynicism prevails that he seems to be prolonging and now expanding a war for his own political survival.
All right, we will have to leave it there. We're out of time. Saeed Khan, thank you as always for your insight.
Thank you.